how do I eat foods that I love, especially in a calorie deficit? This is where a lot of women get tripped up because they think enjoying foods is a failure. And the thing that we need to do is do it as a woman who's like has self-control, not a woman who's rebelling against herself. Welcome to the Mindset Mirror Connection podcast, the podcast where we debunk the eat less, move more, shrink more mentality and focus on what really matters, which includes your relationship with your body, food, self-worth, and the behaviors that align with all of those. I'm your host, Christina Hathaway, licensed therapist with specialized training in food and body obsession, certified personal trainer and nutrition coach. At the Mindset Mirror Connection podcast, we believe what you say in your mind, you see in the mirror. So let's have a conversation about that. Before we get into today's episode, I want to make sure you subscribe to this YouTube channel. Also, if you don't want to miss any content that's being dropped, make sure you hit that notification bell as well. I also want to know who are the people you want to hear from on this show and what topics would you like me to continue to cover. Thank you so much for your continued support. Now, let's get into the episode. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Mindset Mirror Connection podcast. I'm so excited that you took time to learn something for yourself about your health. That is a huge deal, so congratulations. Today, we are talking about swaps that you can make in regards to macronutrients to hit your targets. On top of how to be in a calorie deficit, hit your targets, but also eat the foods that you love. Because let's face it, being in a calorie deficit is hard in itself. Being in a calorie deficit with very rigid rules leads to disaster, and it leads to it not being fun. It leads to you avoiding it, and more importantly, it leads to you not being consistent with it. So when I was first learning the If It Fits Your Macros, which was started around like 2017, I actually hired a coach because I had worked in the fitness industry, but didn't really understand that If It Fits Your Macros. It was kind of new back then. Before that, you just kind of portion control, cut certain things out, and it worked for me. However, I was looking at very specific goals. I wanted to shape my body. I wanted to look a certain way. And I hired this coach. And now hindsight is 2020. I realized this coach probably didn't have a lot of experience in what we were doing because number one, my calories were very low and I was eating underneath my basal metabolic rate, which we don't want to do. What does that mean? I was eating less than what my body needed to survive without movement. So then what I would do is at the end of the night or close, in the evening, I'd send her a screenshot through Facebook Messenger of the macros I had left, and then she would tell me what to eat. Now, I'm sure some of you are like, I would love that. However, I was eating like cups of egg whites at the end of the day. It was not fun. Rather than teaching me how to front load my day, which she did not do, there wasn't a lot of coaching involved. She just said, okay, finish your day with a cup of egg whites, and was disgusting. So being the person that I am and knowing that I had this background in fitness and nutrition, I said, hey, I can do this better. I'm going to figure this out. And a lot of the things that I'm talking about today are the swaps that I made in an effort to not have to recreate my meals when I was in a calorie deficit, just make very intentional swaps, and also making those swaps in an effort to still also enjoy the foods that I love. So we'll talk about that today. So hitting your macros can feel like playing nutritional Tetris, as you guys know. You're trying to fit all the pieces, the proteins, the carbs, the fats, into your day without going over your calories. And you also don't want to give up the foods that make you actually feel human. But here's the thing, the women who are the most successful at the mindset of matter don't hit their goals. I said don't hit their goals by eating perfectly. They hit their goals and their macronutrients by having these intentional swaps, by knowing what their cravings will be and incorporating those foods in, and knowing what their goals are, not just what their MyFitnessPal numbers are. Because for a lot of you out there, you compound it. You're like, okay, I'm going to try this macro counting thing. I'm going to, do it all at once. I'm going to, hit my protein, my carbs, my fats all at once. I never suggest that, but for a lot of you want to do that. I'm going to also hit that calorie goal, and I'm going to cut out all my foods, and I need to do it perfectly. That is a recipe for disaster. You are setting yourself up to not be successful in your calorie deficit. That then sets up this pattern of I am not successful at that. It is tedious. It is overwhelming. Then when you try to do it again, all of those feelings come to the forefront. Now we have this very negative relationship with tracking food. What I see as tracking food using a food scale is a tool. It's an educational tool to help you understand what portion sizes look like. What does each portion look like to meet the needs that are my needs, my macronutrient needs? Being able to look at and learn through repetition what is a portion of peanut butter, of yogurt. That way, later on, you've got the repetition and you're actually focusing on your eyeballs to the portion to be able to clock it in your head. Like, that's 4 ounces of yogurt. That's 4 ounces of yogurt. That's 4 ounces of yogurt. After months of doing that, the hope is that you can eyeball it down the line. Okay. So when we can use it as a tool rather than a torturous thing, it changes the game for you. So I'm going to talk about today, we're going to break down the swaps that work, not just for your macros, but of course for your mindset. We're going to cover the science behind flexible nutrition. That's what this is. How to tweak your favorite foods to fit your goals and how to finally eat the foods that you love without sabotaging your progress. So important. Let's talk about flexible nutrition. Back in the day, like I said, it was if it fits your macros. And the concept was you could eat anything as long as it fit your macronutrients. This is where the market for these diet foods, these like processed diet foods, really ramped up. And we still see it today. You see Pop-Tarts, you see muffins, you see cookies that are all like high protein. Now, they're great once in a while. However, what was happening is that people were just hitting their macronutrients, but they were lacking a lot of micronutrients because a lot of these foods were heavily processed. So we saw, issues with a variety of different micronutrients like vitamin D, omega-3s, things like that. And now we've kind of evolved. Yes, we want flexible nutrition, but we want to be able to be getting majority of our foods from whole foods while also allowing ourselves to feel satisfied when it comes to our pleasurable foods, right? So I want you to think, if you're someone who's been on a diet and thinks I blew it because I had a piece of pizza, then turn the volume up, babe, because this is for you. Most of the women that I've experienced that come into my program live in extremes. They're either clean eating or they're in the fuckets. And clean eating to them is either incredibly boring or it is a plethora of these processed, quote unquote, diet foods. Macros are meant to give you freedom, but they're meant to give you a sense of freedom with this sense of structure, right? And it's not a structure that needs to be perfect. It's structure that creates awareness, again, around what things look like, what portion sizes look like, what my body needs, etc. What we know is when you give yourself permission to include foods that you love in your diet, especially in a calorie deficit, it lowers your cortisol. It makes you feel less restrictive. You're not trying to pair food with this dopamine hit. You're just allowing for your body to have that food and enjoy that food. We're not even, we're having a dopamine spike, but not in the way that is coming from this like need and this immense craving. What that does is it reduces your drive to binge. It reduces the drive to give up, and flexibility, of course, just creates more sustainability in your deficit. Now, keep in mind, guys, calorie deficits are not fun. They shouldn't be fun. If it fits your macros, they got a little fun, right? But after a certain amount of time, our bodies stop responding to it. I know mine did. And I realized, shit, maybe I need to focus on the quality of my food. But again, calorie deficits should not be fun, but also they shouldn't be torture as well. When you give yourself that permission, it's incredibly important. When you tell yourself, I don't have to earn food by being perfect, I just need to have an understanding of it, is going to be incredibly important. So let me break down the science of macronutrients. So what are we actually trying to hit? Okay, so protein. Protein is big now, especially with all of the muscle mommy movement, with the perimenopause and the movement there. Protein is your builder. It supports your lean muscle, your hormone production, and your satiety. One of the things that has been in the news is slowing gastric emptying, which is what GLP-1s do. Protein does that naturally. We love that for you. When we are having our whole proteins, not your powders or your bars, your whole proteins, it takes the body longer to digest, and it requires more energy or calorie burn to digest it. Yay! So it actually slows gastric emptying. Protein, however, is something that is like a unicorn to a lot of women. When I say 100 grams of protein, they look at me like I just told them their baby was ugly. And it's because they're doing it wrong. And so I'm going to walk you through the wrong and what are the swaps we can make. What I want you to hear is 1 gram of protein equals 4 calories. That's going to be important here in a second. So protein is there to build muscle. It's there. It helps you at the cellular level. And of course, it helps with satiety and keeping you full when it's in its whole, when you eat it whole. Obviously, you don't want to digest it whole. That would hurt. Carbohydrates. All right. This is your energy source. Yes, we want carbohydrates. This is going to fuel your training. It's going to help regulate your mood. It's going to help regulate your brain focus and your recovery. So many people, women specifically, cut out carbohydrates when they are in a calorie deficit. There are easy swaps that you can make to create volume while still enjoying the carbs that you love, or just making these small swaps for the short time you're in the calorie deficit. I want you to remember, when we're in a deficit, we're just in a lower energy state because we're not eating as much. So cut carbs from that too. You're going to feel like shit. So eat your freaking carbs. Next is your fats. Oh, going back to carbs. 1 gram of carbs is 4 calories. Yes, carbs and protein per gram are the same calories. So stop saying that they make you fat. They're the same calories as protein, okay? They all work together. Not one is better. But yes, eat your protein. Fats, the regulator. Fats help to support your hormones, your health, and your blood sugar stability. Little Bill Nye the Science Guy moment. Your body uses cholesterol from fats to create pregnenolone, which is your mother hormone. Then that creates all of your other hormones, including cortisol, progesterone, estrogen, testosterone. So having those healthy fats is incredibly, incredibly important. That is why when we're not consuming a good amount of fat or even carbohydrates, our bodies tend to shut down our reproductive system because we're not in a safe place. We're not obviously creating a lot of our healthy hormones, our anabolic hormones and our reproductive hormones, and our bodies shut down. So that's why you often see that with people who are really restrictive on these things. However, fats are very calorie dense. They are, for 1 gram of fat, it's 9 calories for each gram. So compared to the 4 calories that 1 gram of protein and carbs are, fats are 9 calories. And when I'm talking about these foods, I want you to keep in mind that we need to hit these numbers and try to do it considering the quality of our food, because that actually gives us a better experience when we're eating those quality whole foods, which we'll talk about are pleasurable foods, so don't you worry. But when I tell that to women, they tend to overcorrect and they tend to only eat quote unquote diet foods, whether that's the processed shit or they get very boring and basic with their foods, and they wonder why they don't feel satisfied. I have a beautiful client. She is absolutely thriving in our program. And when she came to me, she was eating pinto beans and chicken, pinto beans and beef, pinto beans and pinto beans. And since I told her, like, stop with the pinto beans, these are other things you can have. These are fiber-rich foods. And I gave her a list. She goes, I love so many of those foods, and I didn't allow myself to have them. I'm like, yeah, let's have those foods. Now she's thriving. She feels amazing. I don't think she'll ever make pinto beans again, because your macros are not about being boring and basic. They're about being balanced. Okay. So let's talk about swaps. So the first thing is okay, what does our plate actually need to look like? One of the main things that I see with women now is that they really underestimate what a protein is. When we're looking at the nutritional facts on a nutrition label, whatever is bringing us the most amount of calories, that is the way that macronutrient leans, okay? Meaning that if I have, for example, 2 eggs, great food. However, in a calorie deficit, we're getting the majority of our calories from fats because 2 eggs have 12 grams of protein and 10 grams of fat. Now remember, a gram of fat is 9 calories, whereas a gram of protein is 4 calories. So we have 48 calories coming from our protein and 90 calories coming from fats, okay? The other thing that I see women do is they mistake other fats for proteins, cheese, peanut butter, nuts, things like that. We want those in our diets. However, think about this. When you're trying, so if I wanted to hit 26 grams of protein or 30 grams of protein, how many eggs would I have to eat? Plus, how much fat am I accumulating, right? So now I'm way high in fat because I'm trying to hit a protein target through a food that is a fat source. Okay. How many nuts you need to eat? Do you even realize like how many nuts you need to eat to hit 30 grams of protein? You're just in a very high calorie range. So we're going to leave the fats to the fats, and I'm going to talk about those. So let's talk about protein swaps. So one of the easiest swaps that you can do with protein is take your 2 eggs and move them to egg whites. Instead of buying a dozen of eggs, you're buying a carton of egg whites. Now, if you're someone who likes the runniness of an egg, you can have a 3/4 cup of egg whites with 1 runny egg. That way you still get a little bit of best of both worlds and you're hitting that protein target without increasing too many fats. One of my favorite things to do, because egg whites don't taste good on their own, is to pair my egg whites with another protein source. That might be turkey sausage. That might be, I like to use bacon bits instead of sliced bacon, or you can make your own bacon and turn it into bits. It's a little better for portion control. I like to use some cheese. I like to use even Canadian bacon or even a nice off the bone deli turkey. Beautiful, beautiful little combination. You're doubling your protein, which is incredibly important. If you can hit protein targets in the morning, like I should have learned with my coach, your day is going to be a lot easier. One of the things I want to teach you, I'm going to pause real quick, is how to figure out how much protein I need per meal. And you can do this with every micronutrient or macronutrient, excuse me. So say that you have 100 grams of protein. You're going to look at how many meals and how many snacks do I have in a day. So for my girlies who have 3 meals and 1 snack, you are going to just take your 100 calories and divide it by 4. If it feels too much to have a higher calorie snack or a higher protein snack, you could add a bit of so you could go to 30 grams instead of, so let me back up. So if I divide 100 grams by 4, it's 25 grams of protein for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and snack. If you feel like that's too much for a snack, you can take 5 grams and add it to breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So now we're at 30 grams and maybe we only have 10 grams of protein for snack. If you have 2 snacks, do the same thing. Take your 100 calories, divide it by 4. Take that 4th amount that is there for snacks and divide it by 2. So now we're having 12 and a half calories for our 12 and a half grams of protein for our 2 snacks. You can do this with your carbs. You can do this with your fats. I highly, highly suggest doing this because when you do it, you say, okay, rather than looking at it from this broad view, you say, I have to hit these targets at each meal to hit my goal. And it makes it very less Tetrisy. And the beautiful thing is you just start creating meals around these targets. So I have my 3 to 5 breakfasts, my lunches, my dinners that all hit these particular targets. So pro tip there. Okay, coming back to swaps. So we've swapped eggs to egg whites. Another really easy swap that I see is moving from like sugary carb forward yogurt or even high fat yogurt to a non-fat Greek yogurt. Your Yoplait strawberry yogurt has 5 grams of protein and 33 grams of carbs. Yeah. And again, if I'm trying to hit 15 grams of protein, I'm going to have over 100, almost 100 carbs, over 100 carbs. And we don't want that, okay? So instead, if I move over to a non-fat Greek yogurt, I am going to save the carbs, save the fats, and the carbs are a bit, it's like 4. And I'm going to have 23 grams of protein, okay? And one of the things you can do is doctor it up because, again, Greek yogurt is not great for by itself. So adding in berries, cinnamon, adding in even a scoop of protein powder, again, doubling up your protein. Protein powders are flavored. Greek yogurt is not. You add in a little chocolate, put some strawberries, maybe a little small serving of dark chocolate chips. Mwah, beautiful meal, right? You could add granola to it. There's some good protein granolas, but granola is a carbohydrate that we definitely want to track and move into the, just doctor up that non-fat Greek yogurt to make it taste good. Okay, that's a great swap. Another swap is moving from regular milk to Fairlife milk or one of your higher protein milks. These ultra processed milks have a good amount of protein in them. They taste great and they're lactose free. So this is a great swap no matter what you're making. You can put them in your protein shakes. I use it for my creamies. You can put it in your coffee. Mark makes his own coffee creamer with some sugar-free coffee syrup and the Fairlife milk, mixes it up, makes his own coffee creamer with that. Great swap there. Another swap is swapping Greek yogurt for other condiments like mayonnaise. When you can, if you're making a tuna salad or chicken salad, you can use the Greek yogurt as a mayonnaise, or you can also use it as a sour cream. By itself, it tastes exactly like sour cream. When you mix it and use it as a binder, not only does it give you a little bit extra protein, but also you reduce a lot of those fat calories that come from something like mayonnaise. So that is swap number 2. Swap number 3 is looking at your animal protein sources and making some swaps, easy swaps from a higher fat cut to a lower fat cut. So one of the easiest ways to do that is going from chicken thighs to chicken breasts. Chicken breasts just naturally are a leaner cut. Now, they don't taste as great, but we're only here for a short amount of time. So you can do anything for 8 to 16 weeks. Then going from your 80-20 ground beef to a 95-5 ground beef. Great swap there. Going from a fattier cut of steak like a ribeye or a sirloin to a filet. Yes, filet mignon. I know it costs more. Or a skirt steak can be a little bit fatty too, but I like filet. So you filet mignon. You have permission. Another thing is just moving from ground beef altogether to ground turkey or ground chicken. But keep in mind, with ground turkey, there are still higher fat ground turkey. So you'll see a 90-10? But there's a 99% fat-free ground turkey. So 99% fat-free, 1% fat. I will tell you, when my dad was alive, my mom used to make him shit all the time with the 99.1 ground turkey, and he did not even know it was that. You can doctor it up. She would make burgers. She would make meatballs. She would make taco meat. He would eat it, do it. Great swap there. So the other thing, though, is there is a lot fish, whitefish, tuna fish, shrimp. You get, a lot of bang for your buck when you're eating those foods. I used to make this stir fry. Pro tip, again, combining my proteins, I would do, 13 jumbo shrimp, or no, it was the medium shrimp. Jumbo shrimp is, I think, 6 or 7. And then I would make cauliflower rice because, again, I'm in a deficit, so I'm creating a lot of volume. I'd put veggies in there, and then I'd put half a cup of egg whites. Because remember, like stir fry or like fried rice has egg in it. So good. Do a little coconut amino, some sriracha. You can make a big bowl of that. I might make that for dinner tonight, but with rice because I'm not in a calorie deficit. So that is a pro tip. Tuna, even you can buy the chicken in the can. That's a nice little thing that you can have, just easy to prepare. Shrimp, whitefish, add that to the mix. I don't do a lot of whitefish, so I'm not going to give you any spiels on that. Now, a lot of dairy, again, is mistaken for protein. So cheese is a big one. I'm going to talk about that in your fats conversation. But some other high protein things that you can incorporate that are more whole foods-ish. I do like beef jerky. It's just dehydrated meat. The chomps are actually great. The chomp sticks, now a bit more processed, but those are going to be 100 grams of protein. I love deli meat off the bone. People shit on sandwiches. I love them. Deli meat is an excellent and easy way and a delicious way to get more protein in. You could do deli roll-ups with some thin sliced cheese. Eat a couple of those. You can put it on a rice cake, make it a little sandwich. You can make a sandwich with some thin sliced bread. These are all swaps that we're going to talk about. Deli meat is fabulous. You can add it. I use one of the high fiber tortillas with a cup of egg whites. I cook the tortilla in the egg whites, flop it over, put in some deli meat and some cheese. I make a little quesadilla out of it. So good. I think I've said that on here before. So those are some swaps there. Other ways to get in some protein. I love the Kodiak protein pancakes. They have, I think it's 12 grams of protein. I make one of those protein pancakes with some berries. I use like a low sugar or I use a mindful amount of maple sugar on that to sweeten it up. And then I have my side of egg whites with cheese. So now again, I'm getting 40 grams of protein for pancakes and eggs. Fabulous swap there. Just remember that your powders you can put into your non-fat Greek yogurt. Another dairy I failed to mention is non-fat cottage cheese. Non-fat cottage cheese, Good Culture is my favorite brand. It's a little less watery. I tend to use cottage cheese for savory things. I like to do it with salsa and taco seasoning. But other people use it for sweet. They'll add pineapple, cinnamon, blueberries, stuff like that. Again, you can use a scoop of your protein powder to flavor those dairy products. And just keep in mind, yes, there are protein chips, there's protein Pop-Tarts, there's protein thing. You can add those in, but they should not be your main staples for your protein. We want to feel satiated. Processed down protein is going to go through the system very quickly, which is what we want to avoid, because when that happens, we're hungrier sooner. We're trying to avoid that, right? So just be a little bit more aware and just have that as the exception, not the rule when it comes to protein. Again, pro tip, break down how many grams you need per meal and then you can use ChatGPT to do that for you, and then look at, okay, what does that look, you can ask it, okay, what is a portion of these particular proteins that I need to hit that target? And it'll do it for you. Or you can get a coach. Probably better to do that, because then you'll learn, and that's important. So protein is not something that we need to be freaking out over. I swear to God, the faces that I get when I say, we're going to increase your protein to 100 grams. People are like, what? And I'm like, I'm going to help you. I'm your coach. And if you have questions, you can reach out to me because you have access to me in my app throughout the week. The other thing is this is the macronutrient that you want to be able to hit first before we're trying to do all the others. Like I said before, when we start layering all of this, it can be really overwhelming. So we want to be able to hit these targets first. Sometimes it's the only thing I have clients focusing on when they start with us. All right, let's talk about carbohydrates, okay? So carbohydrates, again, are something that we absolutely want. One of the easiest swaps for carbohydrates to create volume. When I'm talking about volume is putting a shit ton of food on your plate, right? Because a lot of people think diet, they think small amounts. No, we want to put as much volume on our plate as possible. Vegetables are the best way to do that. You can eat a ton of vegetables. You can have a big ass veggie salad with a protein, and you're going to feel satiated, full, you're going to have energy, you're going to get a lot of micronutrients out of it. However, we don't just want to eat vegetables, right? We want to eat other things. So some of my favorite swaps are things like, instead of regular pasta, having Bonza chickpea pasta. That is a wonderful swap. I personally don't taste the difference, neither does Mark. We make a lot of our meals with Bonza protein pasta. Or you can do something like a zoodles. I don't love zoodles or spaghetti squash. I like spaghetti squash. But even something that you guys want to consider is splitting it. So if you really like the bite that a pasta gives, just do half of a serving of the pasta and mix in the other thing. Mix in the zoodles, mix in they even have like those zero pastas. I've used those before, but they taste fishy. But you get what I'm saying. Mix in the zoodle with the regular pasta, just do a half serving, and you have more volume because you can have more zoodles than you could have regular pasta, okay? Another thing that I love to do is just swap out from a regular size of something to a thin slice of something. So for bread, you have regular Dave's Killer Bread. Our swap is Dave's Killer Bread thin, just a thinner slice, right? You have bagels. You move over to a bagel thin. I know, concept. But also, one of my favorite swaps are the Joseph's Pitas. Joseph's Pitas, I know you can get at Walmart, you can get at Sprouts. They are very high protein and high fiber. And I think they're like 60 calories. And they actually are pitas, so you can stuff them. Or what I like to do with them is make them into tostadas. And I make them tostadas, right? You can make tacos out of them. I used to do this like peanut butter and jelly thing when I was really feeling saucy. So those are a great swap. The other thing is the Egg Life wraps. Now, these are not for everyone. When I was traveling and I was in a deficit, I would have very low calories, like 1,400 calories during the week, so that I can have a bit more calories. I had about double that on the weekend days because I was traveling and we're going to these new areas. We wanted to try different cuisine. So in an effort to be able to do that, I ate less during the week. So I got really creative with these Egg Life wraps. I think they have an everything bagel one. They have like a Spanish style one. They have different flavors to them, and you can make, anything you make out of a regular tortilla, you can make out of those wraps, and they're 25 calories per wrap. And protein, there's protein in them because they're made out of egg whites. The other thing is just a high fiber tortilla. Now, keep in mind that it's going to talk about net carbs, this and that. I'm not talking about that today. I'm rarely talking about it. But it's the fiber in the tortilla. We're getting a bit more from that tortilla than we normally do, maybe a higher fat tortilla. So Mission tortillas are something that I swap in as well. Another thing is, again, creating more volume is cauliflower rice. Now, you can have a good amount of rice. We just need to be mindful of that portion. And what I like to do is do the half and half. I can do a good serving of cauliflower rice mixed in with the rice that I love. That way it gives it a little bit more of that bite, right? And I'm getting more volume. Cauliflower rice, like I talked about in the fried rice or stir fry, I think I called it, gives me a ton of volume because I can have multiple cups of it. And let me tell you, the best cauliflower rice you can find is actually the Mexican style spicy cauliflower rice from Trader Joe's. I still eat that today. It's so freaking flavorful, It's absolutely delicious. Speaking of flavorful and delicious, another thing you want to stock up on, especially in a calorie deficit, is potatoes. Yes, potatoes are mainly full of water. They're absolutely delicious. You can throw them in an air fryer. And for my girlies who don't have a lot of time to cut them up and dice them, Simply Potato green bag has diced potatoes. They have potatoes and peppers. They have hash browns. They have just plain potatoes. Throw those babies in the air fryer. You have a wonderful, wonderful swap. Another great swap for breakfast is you can have the hash browns, but say you want a bit more flavor, you can do the Cascadian Farms root vegetable hash. This is Yukon potatoes, sweet potatoes, and carrots. You could get a lot more bang for your buck. However, it is harder to find those. So those are some swaps there. Now, if you have a sugary tooth, you want that cereal in the morning, let's swap it out for oatmeal. Oatmeal, you can put in a scoop of protein powder. I put in a cup of egg whites. I put in some peanut butter, some bananas. You can really make it delicious and still high protein, right? If we're doing that scoop of protein powder and make it so, so good. Again, also, you can do the Kodiak cakes as well. Rice cakes are another great carbohydrate. You can get a lot more bang for your buck with rice cakes, and you can use rice cakes as kind of this vehicle for really anything. You can make bruschetta, you can make a sandwich, you can make a peanut butter jelly something, you can do so many things, and they have different flavors of rice cakes. That is a staple in our house whenever we are in a deficit, because again, I can make a lot of snacks out of it and do a lot of those things. Both the oats and the rice cakes also help slow your glucose release, so we're not seeing big spikes like we would from a cereal. Our bodies are like maintaining and using that blood sugar for energy and not seeing these big crashes, which is incredibly important. So just remember too, like a pro tip is to pair our carbs with a protein or fat. We don't want to have naked carbohydrates. We want to really pair them with other things. One of my favorite carbohydrates to add is berries. You can eat so many berries for little bit amount of calorie money. and they're delicious, especially when they're in season. I absolutely add berries to everything. Right now, the berries I have from Costco are freaking huge. But coming back to not eating carbohydrates alone, that again is going to help stabilize your blood sugar. And again, we're not removing anything. We're not removing any carbs. We are just anchoring them with these other foods and making these swaps. They are not the enemy. They are here for energy, not enemy. Okay, food or fat swaps, excuse me. Healthy fats add up, my dears, and y'all don't realize it. You are not putting dressings on the scale. You're not putting cheese on the scale. You're not putting avocado on the scale. You're not putting olive oil on the scale because you think it's a healthy fat. Healthy fats still add up. As we talked about, we have 9 calories per gram of fat. And so we want to make sure that we are tracking. Now, what we want to avoid in regards to fat are your saturated fats and your trans fats. Those are the fats that are in the hyper processed foods, right? Like your potato chips and things like that. Not saying you can have those foods. We're going to talk about how to incorporate them in, but we want to have mindful portions of them, and we want to have them sparingly because they do cause a good amount of inflammation. Remember, ultra processed foods are seen as foreign invaders to the body, whereas our whole natural foods from the earth are not. That's why we only want to have a little bit of them. We don't want to have a lot of them. But when we come to our fats, even though it is healthy, we still have to remember that the calories add up. So rather than taking that scoop of trail mix or whatever it is, what you're going to do is you're going to go buy these snack size Ziploc bags. You're going to take your entire bag of almonds or trail mix and you're going to portion them out, 28 grams. Boom, 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 boom. Put them in the pantry. Now, anytime you grab a bag, you know, this is 28 grams. I can track it in my Fitness Pal. And if you end up with a couple of bags, that's going to add up pretty quickly, but at least you're accountable to yourself instead of when I just grab a handful from the bag, I pretend like it's 1 serving when it's probably 3. Okay. So we definitely want to measure those out. Other things we want to measure out are our olive oil. Olive oil, the easiest way to do this is by placing the bottle, the jar, the bag on the scale. Zeroing that scale out and then using it, whether it's to put on our pan in a salad, then put it back on the scale. Whatever that negative number is, we are going to track that in my Fitness Pal. The olive oil, we're going to do the same with peanut butter. Okay. We're going to do the same with higher fat dressings because again, when we don't do this, we're lying to ourselves. And we are usually saying, oh, that's 1 serving. But you don't know that. You don't know that. Another thing I do this for is coffee creamer. Coffee creamer is very calorie dense. I did not realize this until I realized I was basically drinking 100 calories of coffee creamer a day. Now I drink roughly 60 because I really love coffee creamer, but I cut it down some. So that's another thing you want to use this method for. In regards to peanut butter, again, we're always going to track it. We're going to track it in grams. There's swaps for that too. You have PB Fit or PB2, which is dried peanut butter, and it cuts out, I believe, majority of the fat from the peanut butter. And you can put some water in it to make it peanut butter consistency, and or you could just like scoop it into a yogurt. I use it for my creamy. You can use it for a shake. It's a wonderful addition to your pantry. Another thing that we want to make sure that we are always putting on the scale is avocado. I see this all the time where clients like half an avocado. Was it a large Hass avocado? Was it a small avocado? What is that? And then they're like, I don't know. And then we're 200, we could be anywhere upwards of 200 calories off, right? So put the avocado on the scale, cut your slices, remove the slices, whatever the negative number is, put that in my Fitness Pal. Okay. Another pro tip that I have for that is buying the wholly avocado with sea salt cups from Costco. They last a long time, and half of a cup is roughly 20 grams of avocado. So you can literally cut it in half, scoop it out, put it on your avocado toast, whatever that is, and you will know exactly where you're at. So that's another pro tip. The other thing is cheese. Cheese, delicious. I love cheese. But when, again, we're in a calorie deficit, we've got to make that compromise. So moving to like a skim milk cheese to a reduced fat cheese. And in my house, we always have reduced fat Mexican blend. We always have Sargento thin sliced cheeses. I also believe Safeway has a thin sliced cheese. So that's here in Arizona. I don't know what Safeway is anywhere else. So those are going to be the thin slice. So we're just mining the portion, right? One of the things I didn't say to you guys in carbs is you can also do that with carbs. So rather than having the whole bagel, we just have half the bagel or whatever that looks like. So finding that thin option of cheese. And then the other option that we always have in our house is the Laughing Cow. Laughing Cow is about 25 to 35 grams per slice. And not only are we using it as like a condiment or a cheese, we're also using it as a binder. I use Laughing Cow in so many pasta dishes. Rather than putting a ton of cheese to like thicken it up, 2 of those Laughing Cows can make a beautiful creamy meal. They're very tasty. They have different flavors. I personally have a plethora of the spicy Laughing Cow. Those are always in my fridge, along with, reduced fat mozzarella sticks, even like the Baby Bells. There's a lighter Baby Bell, but still, I believe it's like 50 calories per one of those little circles, but you obviously can have that if you want it. A few other things are dressings. We've talked about condiments, kind of using the Greek yogurt, using the Laughing Cow. One of my favorite swaps for dressing is Bolt House dressings. Bolt House dressings are made with Greek yogurt. And one serving, which is roughly 28 to 30 grams, is about 25 to 50 calories. I love their ranch. I think I'm a ranch snob. I think it tastes delicious. I've done their ranch, their Caesar, their avocado goddess. There's the like cilantro jalapeno. I've used all of them. I love every single one of them. They're a great addition to just add some flavor to whether it's your salad or your, as we're going to talk about here soon, getting a slice of pizza. That is a great swap. And then obviously you have your reduced fat options of things like mayonnaise. Check the label, make sure it's not full of junk. So that is fat. Fats are essential, but they're easy to overconsume. We want to be very mindful and intentional, but we don't have to restrict them, right? We don't have to restrict them. We just need to be mindful. Okay, now let's get to the part you've all been waiting for. How do I eat foods that I love, especially in a calorie deficit? This is where a lot of women get tripped up because they think enjoying foods is a failure. Like enjoying the foods that you love is a failure, but you can eat pizzas, cookies, cakes, even wine. Yes, wine. And the thing that we need to do is do it as a woman who's like has self-control, not a woman who's rebelling against herself. And that's where this rebellion, like, I can't have it. I can't have it. I can't have it. I'm going to have it now because I'm in a bad mood. Fuck it. Get over it, dude. Get over that. Just have it, right? So I'm going to talk about how we're going to have it. We talked about this in the Halloween candy episode. You could have a glass of wine every night. I've seen clients do it. And just one. Enjoy it. Chill with it. You can even use the soda water technique. Or if it's chocolate, have a piece of chocolate after each meal and enjoy it, right? Track it in your day and we're good to go. Okay. So that's number one. Number two is if we are wanting, say, sushi for dinner on Friday night, I'm going to track that today. It's Monday and I'm going to track it now. And I'm going to say, okay, well, that's a local sushi restaurant. So how do I find the ingredients? A couple things. You could ask ChatGPT, which a lot of my clients do, or you can use nutritionix.com. Nutritionix.com has hundreds, if not thousands, of restaurants with their nutrition facts online on their site. So you can go in, put rainbow roll, and it'll show you the calories from raw sushi, Benihana, sushi. There's another big name in there. And you just track that in MyFitnessPal. Normally, whatever's in Nutritionix is in MyFitnessPal. So that is a great way to enjoy your sushi. But be real. If you're going to have 4, rolls, like 4 little cuts of a rainbow roll, then maybe 4 of a dragon roll and edamame, put it in first. Then look at the rest of the day and see, okay, how can I meet the rest of my targets? Maybe you need to front load that breakfast with doubling the protein, like we talked about. But when you do that, you're saying, I can enjoy the sushi plus also meet my targets. Win-win, right? Win-win. The other thing is what we just talked about is portion awareness. So if you're someone who usually goes in for 4 pieces of pizza, maybe we just cut it down to 2. That's an easy, easy win. Or if you're a meat lovers type of girly, maybe while we're in the deficit, we cut it down to like a veggie, right? Or a cheese pizza. Or we take 1 slice of the meat lovers and then have a salad and set on the side using your Bolthouse Greek yogurt, right? Or Bolthouse Greek yogurt ranch dressing, right? This is incredibly easy. Portion control it, swap it in for a salad or even a protein, right? I don't know any pizza place that serves grilled chicken, but you know what I'm talking about. The other thing we talked about again with the Halloween candy, we want to savor. We want to not have this kind of guilty multitasking that people tend to do to kind of avoid what they're doing. Like, be intentional. Hold yourself accountable because you're not doing anything wrong. So it's not really like guilt accountability. Enjoy it. Sit down, breathe, right? Just actually taste the food and we move on. There's no making up for that food. We're not doing an extra cardio. We're not skipping breakfast the next day. The magic is in the neutral response because you know that negative response that you have just ends up being days, if not weeks of you engaging in that same behavior. When you say, I planned this, I'm intentional with it, I enjoyed it, I actually allowed my brain to like focus on it rather than, dissociating because it's bad. You have a neutral response to it. It's fucking awesome. It's a huge, huge win. So good. We want to remove the shame. And just think about feeling like when you're in that Tetris with food and, but I really want the cake at my kid's party. And you're like, your cortisol's up. You're stressing yourself out, which is slowing your digestion, not making you feel good. When we can remove the shame and make these easy intentional swaps, you're literally metabolizing better because you're not so freaking stressed out. You're relaxed. Okay. So macros doesn't need to be rigid, doesn't need to be robotic. It's about being aware. And it's about learning how to work with your body instead of constantly fight it or put it in this restrictive state. So takeaways from today, again, are anchor every meal with protein. Try to hit that protein early on in the day. Add that color, that volume, that fiber. Use fat strategically, not mindlessly. And swap foods that feel good, not just ones that fit in. This is going to create satiety. You're not going to feel as hungry in a calorie deficit. It's going to be more pleasurable to be in a calorie deficit. You're going to see results sooner because you're not in this hellhole of a mindset. And next time down the line that you are going to go into an intentional fat loss phase, you're not going to have PTSD from it. Win-win. All right. So if this episode hit home for you, I want you to share it. Share with those people who are just tired of the restriction and the rules. I've laid it out for you. If you follow this plan, you're going to be A-okay. However, if you're ready to take this deeper, to actually build a body that thrives in this balance, check out the show notes below to set up a clarity call. Whether you're a one-to-one intimate setting girly or you thrive in community in our group coaching, we have a place for you at the Mindset of Matter. So check out the show notes for that. And just remember, eating food is not about being perfect. It's about being powerful. It's about being peaceful. And it's about being well fed. We love that for you. And I leave you with that and this other little nugget of truth. What you say in your mind, you see in the mirror. Goodbye.